Hello, once again, my brothers and sisters. Here we are for another Living Hope Today study. I want to welcome you. And today we're going to talk about Numbers chapter 29. The Israelites are on the eastern shore of the Jordan River across from Jericho. They're preparing to enter the promised land as God has said they would. And the Lord has taken these last couple chapters, 28, now today 29, to help people understand what is required of them. And there's something here for us today, because in these requirements, we see that one thing God keeps pushing forward is remembering. Okay? Not just remembering that we're in a sinful condition and we need to sacrifice all these animals to remember our sinfulness and to let God go through the procedure He wants to make us to have atonement. But we also want to remember His deliverance and His care and His provision as we live with Him. Let me show you what I mean. As we get to Numbers 29, we're going to look at some festivals. Listen to this. On the first day of the seventh month. Okay, so we're getting very specific about the calendar. The seventh month, hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. It is a day for you to sound the trumpets. Okay, so we're going to blow trumpets on the first day of the seventh month. As an aroma pleasing to the Lord, prepare a burnt offering of one young bull, one ram, 7 male lambs, and a year old without defect. Now, we're about to see something repeated, and I want to take you to the Jewish calendar because I think it'll help you understand. The seventh month, if you can see it, my little cursor's too little, I'm sorry, but down here at the very bottom, you see the Tishrei, seventh month, summer figs, dates, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Simchat Torah. If you look in the center of the circle, you see that it's the month of September into October by the Gregorian calendar. Okay, so we're looking at something in the fall that God wants to institute here when He says in the seventh month, we need to do these things, okay? So just so you understand, that's where we are. Also, what I want you to see here is if you look at Leviticus chapter 23, you can see a lot of the things we're going to look at this morning explained more fully. Let me say it to you this way. In the passage we just looked at, you'll see the word trumpets mentioned, and you'll understand that we're talking about the Feast of Trumpets. Okay. When we get to verse 10, you're going to see the sacrificial procedure laid out, but the word Day of Atonement is not there. Where's that? It's in Leviticus 23, when God instituted this festival or this occasion. In verse 15, we're going to get to something called the Tabernacles, or the Feast of Booths, and we're going to see what happens there, but it's called that in Leviticus 23, not here in Numbers 29. But just to go through this chart for a quick minute with you, I just want you to see what happens if you're in the Feast of Trumpets. You sacrifice 1 bull, 1 ram, 2 lambs, and a male goat. The male goat is always included as a sin offering, okay? When you get to the Day of Atonement, you change to 7 lambs. Everything else stays about the same. When you get to this Feast of Tabernacles, all of a sudden, look at this. Day 1, 13 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, and the male goat. The male goat's always there to be sacrificed, and he's always mentioned last. The second day of the tabernacle, 12 bulls. The third day, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. By the eighth day, you go back down to 1 bull. The other number that varies is the number of male lambs. 14 is pretty consistent until the end. You get to 7. Why do these numbers change? Well, maybe a Jewish scholar could tell us, but God only knows for sure. In the end, this is what He's prescribed for His people. So when we go to the text, you'll just see this pattern repeated. Okay, so God is talking about the Feast of Trumpets right here in the beginning of the chapter. He says, with the bull, prepare a grain offering, 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil. With the ram, 2/10. With each of the 7 lambs, 1/10. Okay, include 1 male goat as a sin offering. Again, this continues to sort of be the end of the sequence that repeats. Okay, why do we have the male goat? He's a sin offering to make atonement for you. Okay, these are in addition to the monthly and daily burnt offerings with their grain offerings and drink offerings as specified. They are offerings made to the Lord by fire, a pleasing aroma. Okay, so they make atonement. There are burnt offerings, grain offerings, drink offerings, and notice this other phrase that continues to come up. They're a pleasing aroma. In other words, God likes the aroma of these offerings, okay? If you study God's sense of smell, and we know that God is a spirit, right? But he brings this to our attention to help us identify with what he's doing here. He's just extremely honored and glorified by the fact that his people are sacrificing in obedience to what he has called them to do. So, on the 10th day, so now we're going to see the pattern repeated, only this time instead of the first day of the 7th month, now we're on the 10th day of the 7th month. Again, mid-September to mid-October in the Jewish calendar. All right, what do you want us to do, God? Well, hold a sacred assembly. You must deny yourselves and do no work. Present as an aroma. Again, notice the olfactory senses that the Lord mentions. Present as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, a burnt offering of 1 young bull, 1 ram, 7 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bull, prepare a grain offering, 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil. With the ram, 2/10. With each of the 7 lambs, 1/10. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the sin offering for atonement and the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and their drink offerings. Again, this 1 male goat is here. Why? God's constantly mentioning atonement. He wants to make sure his people understand their sinfulness. He wants to make sure innocent blood is shed on behalf of the guilty, symbolically foreshadowing the cross. He wants to make sure his people stay in touch with the fact that they're not worthy to be in the presence of God. On the 15th day of the 7th month, okay, so we've done the first day, we've done the 10th day, now we do the 15th day. This is the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles or Booths. Okay, verse 10, that's the beginning of atonement, although that section doesn't say atonement, the Day of Atonement. That's reiterated or given to us initially in Leviticus 23. Okay, so on the 15th day of the 7th month, hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. Celebrate a festival to the Lord for 7 days. So on the 15th day of the 7th month, we have a week-long festival. Present an offering made by fire as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, a burnt offering of, okay, the first day, what do we have of this? I should say the 15th day of the month, but the first day of the festival. There we go. We have 13 young bulls, 2 rams, 14 male lambs, a year old, all without defect. With each of the 13 bulls, prepare a grain offering, 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil. With each of the 2 rams, 2/10. And with each of the 14 lambs, 1/10. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering and its grain offering and drink offering. There you go. The pattern repeats. Now we go to the second day of the Feast of Booths, or the Feast of Tabernacles. This time, instead of 13 bulls, we have 12 young bulls, 2 rams, 14 male lambs, all without defect. And with the bulls, rams, and lambs, prepare their grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. So instead of repeating itself here, it just takes us back to what the Lord's already commanded. But again, it does repeat this. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt and with its grain offering and their drink offerings. Okay? So now we have in the 3rd day of this week. On the 3rd day, prepare 11 bulls. Okay, 2 rams, 14 male lambs, all a year old without defect. All right, so the number of bulls continues to decrease as the days proceed in the Feast of Tabernacles. With the bulls, rams, and lambs, prepare their grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Again, as we have just read, include one male goat as a sin offering. Notice how this is always brought back to our attention, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. On the fourth day, so now the number of bulls decreases again. We're on the fourth day. This time we prepared 10 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bulls, rams, and lambs, prepare their grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include one male goat as a sin offering in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. We see that same pattern. The male goat, the sin offering, is mentioned and repeated. On the fifth day, all right, the festival's 5 days old. What do we learn? Well, this time you need 9 bulls, 2 rams, 14 male lambs a year old, all without defect. The repetition is here, except the number changed for the bulls. With the bulls, rams, lambs, prepare the grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include one male goat as a sin offering, in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. Same pattern. Verse 29, on the sixth day, now we're down to 8 bulls, 2 rams, 14 male lambs a year old, all without defect. With the bulls, rams, and lambs, prepare their grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Include one male goat as a sin offering in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. And on the seventh day, prepare 7 bulls, 2 rams, 14 male lambs a year old, all without defect. The number continues to decrease, at least in terms of the bulls. The bulls and rams, again, were instructed to do the exact same thing we've seen in the pattern. And 34, include a male goat as a sin offering in addition to the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and drink offering. Again, the pattern repeats. On the 8th day, hold an assembly and do no regular work. So this will be the end of the festival. Present an offering made by fire as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. This is the 8th day. A burnt offering of 1 bull. That's where we started. 1 bull, 1 ram, 7 male lambs a year old, all without defect. Okay, with the bull, the ram, and the lambs, prepare their grain offerings and drink offerings according to the number specified. Again, repetition. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering. There it is again, the 1 male goat. In addition to the regular burnt offering, we know that's about atonement, and with its grain offering and drink offering. In addition to what you vow and your free will offerings, prepare these for the Lord at your appointed feasts, your burnt offerings, grain offerings, drink offerings, and fellowship offerings. This is what God requires. Moses told the Israelites all that the Lord commanded him. So where does this leave us? Well, there's a lot of blood going on during these festivals. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of animals that are killed. They are then part of the festival. They're not just wasted. They're sacrificed and then they're eaten. But in the end, what's happening in terms of what the Lord wants? He wants them to remember they need atonement. They need innocent blood to be shed on behalf of their guilt. He also wants them to remember through the Day of Atonement, their sinfulness, through the Festival of Trumpets, his deliverance, that he has cared for them and walked with them through all these things. So as they prepare to enter the Promised Land, God is saying to them, don't forget to honor me the way I've called you to honor me. Something for us to remember today, church. God bless you. Serve him well.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus. But do you know who he is? He's the image of the invisible God, and he future, the past,